This is Tom Gabriel Warrior, formerly of Hellhammer and Celtic Frost, now Triptykon, and
Thomas Lindberg from At the Gates, and you're watching Stormbringer, the Austrian heavy scene. Ooh, ooh, ah.
Nice to have you here, both. How's the tour going so far?
I think the tour is going great. I think the most important thing about the tour is that both the bands are getting along very well, and I think we do. There's a huge amount of mutual respect.
That's the main thing. How you seeing that?
Yeah, I would agree too. Yeah, and for me, it's the response for all three bands on the whole shows. All the shows have been very good. You know, it's. I think these bands complement each other very good. The musically different, but I think the artistic intent is similar, so to say. That it's three serious bands.
There's too many Thomases on this tour.
Oh yeah, that's the problem though.
Yeah, so I will refer to you as Tom and Thomas as well. But you coming from very different backgrounds and different countries, and you started out at a different time with the bands, but there's some meeting points of the two bands. For example, the lyrics or the artistic concept, because it's very deep going and it's very much connected to the music. Do you deem that important?
Well, yeah, of course it's extremely important. But I don't tend to think that we come from such different backgrounds. I think Sweden and Switzerland, besides the fact that they're one and the same country for the Americans, I think they are actually very related. They're very well-kept, isolated countries with a small population, and if you're forming a band in such a country, you're pretty much left to your own devices. Your music is colored by your own experience rather than by all the bands that you see play in a club, as opposed to when you grow up in New York, for example.
Of course. Is it the isolation of Switzerland, because it's a bit of isolation inside Europe?
Yeah, you think? For me personally, very, very much so. And what I gather from the Swedish bands I know, yes, that's also played a role, I suppose.
But Sweden is, I think, every second metal band in Europe is coming from Sweden. So,
yeah, nowadays, but not when we started. That's the whole thing. The Swedish death metal scene in the late '80s, I think it was 15 people. You know. Really? It just happened to grow in the 90s to a bigger thing. But when we started out, we were, as Tom is saying, you're like the outcasts, the kind of pioneers kind of thing. Yeah.
Bit of a different impression down here, that there were more bands around.
Well, yeah, there were a few bands, but we usually have the same members. Okay. Love incest going
and
on.
Incest.
Bands, yeah.
Another meeting point of the two bands is that the lyrics are very dark and melancholic most of the time, and it's very deep going and personal often. So is it some kind of valve for you to leave off some steam? I know it was said in many interviews with you that you are working up your past and the issues that happened, but is it still some kind of valve to leave off some steam or something?
I think if you're an honest musician, yes, of course, the lyrics are some kind of valve to your own personality, because honesty to me means that what you create, music or lyrics, comes from somewhere deep inside of you, from your honest emotions. Otherwise, it's you work according to routine, and I don't do that. It is a valve of some sorts, but my youth is also 40 years ago, so it's long in the past, and but if I'm not a person that's very good in putting my head in the sand and ignoring reality. Quite the opposite is the case. I'm a very informed person. I'm a news junkie. I'm an information junkie. And the way I perceive the world nowadays, the way we're heading, the way we treat our fellow human beings, the way we treat animals, the way we treat the environment, it's not really a joyful party place, is it? In the 30,000 years or so since we crawled out of the caves, all we've been able to do was kill each other and kill our environment and everything that we're dependent on for living. So I think by necessity, if you're an honest person, yes, of course the lyrics tend to be dark.
Mm-hmm. And this must meet your interests as well, because you're a teacher in social studies, I guess, as well.
Yeah, no, me and Tom have had these discussions, and we agree on many of these parts. Me and Tom. So basically, he just said everything that I agree totally with all.
Maybe he should start over there.
Yeah.
Maybe you share one mind.
No. It's we have a really good and deep discussions about subjects like this. Me and Tom, and we share a lot of these emotions and also the attitude towards creating art and also lyrics, as you say, that they have to be honest. Otherwise, I don't see any need for doing this. Either you do it honestly and from the heart and ambitiously, or you don't do it. And I think that's why we connect. And also with the Morbus Crohn guys, I think it's the three. Robban, the singer from Morbus Crohn, has the same. He's very focused in his art as we are. That was kind of what I wanted for this tour, to have bands that have a similar ambition.
Yeah.
And I have to say as well, when Tom is here also, it's like back in the days when when I started, most bands, there was a lot of, how can you say, it's more blunt Satanism or stuff like that, but Celtic Frost really added a sense of more depth that I really was attracted to as a teenager. And I think that's where my journey started, to write more ambitious lyrics from Celtic Frost lyrics, I would say, definitely.
So,
if I can follow up on this, you asked earlier how the tour is going, and to me that's one of the highlights of the tour. The connection I have found to Tomas and the endless discussions we've had on the bus have been to me most pleasing on this tour. I found that we have a connection like I used to have it with Steve Warrior when I formed Hellhammer, or with Martin Ain when I formed Celtic Frost, and that's something very rare. And I didn't know Tomas beforehand in person. I just know him from his music and pictures and stuff. I'm carrying away this, hopefully forever, from this tour. It's absolutely amazing.
And that you have been aware of his career, it's obvious, but have you been aware of the career of At the Gates over the years?
Aware of who they are. How can you not be? Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe some people don't take notice of other bands because
we actually talked about that. He once said, "Well, we're almost a generation after you, but that doesn't make a difference to me, because we were also a generation after Black Sabbath and so on." Every generation, I guess, has some people who reinvent to some extent their genre, and it doesn't really matter when you're born. You can still do something original.
I think that's the whole idea. Also why we connect, because the urge to create original art and true art, as you say, because to just follow a formula was never Tom's intention, and it was never my intention, and that's why we connect, I think, in the artistic sense.
Yeah, but looking back on both careers of you, I think is it sometimes hard that you have a big name in the business, that you are a really respected person? Is it hard to cope with?
No, that would be totally preposterous. Number one, I'm not Robbie Williams, and the metal scene tends to be a little more towards to function a little more towards a brotherhood. So it doesn't really bother you. The thing is, it seems very strange to me still. Yeah. I've had a very humble, very difficult upbringing, and I come from very simple circumstances, from very poor parents. So the titles that are sometimes bestowed upon me are for me very far-fetched. Mm-hmm. I'm very grateful and very proud that my bands have had success. It's by far not a guaranteed thing. It's not something I take for granted. But sometimes I have to shake my head at the stuff that's written about me, because the real Tom is far more humble, and I'm a human being like everybody else. I have no idea how to write a good album. I find that a very difficult proposition to create a new album that's good. I have no secret recipe, so I really don't deserve all of this.
So you don't feel a pressure as well when you write a new album from the fans, or just expectations or something?
Pressure's the wrong word. I really don't feel pressure. Number one, we have full control of everything we're doing. We set our own deadlines. We're our own record company. And I'm a producer myself, so I have full control of everything. But I'm not stupid either. I've been part of this for 32 years. I know that there's expectation. It's not a pressure, but it's a knowledge that fans expect so and so many things of you. To a certain extent, they are the same things that I expect from me, but to a certain extent, they're not. All I do is make albums as they are inside of me, and if I'm lucky, the emotions of the fans combine with my emotion. If not, then not. And as everybody knows, I've failed before, so we'll see about that.
Well, I think this, like what Tom says, like, the connection with the crowd. I mean, you can't second guess what they want anyways, and I mean, I said it in a few interviews, like when we did our comeback record, Monotheist was one of the comeback records I had held highly because of that, because Celtic Frost didn't try to second guess what the crowd wanted. It was not Morbid Tales Part 2, and it was not something completely different, but it was Celtic Frost moving forward.
Yeah, but some people expect Morbid Tales Part 2. That's the problem, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean,
then they should do that. It's free to them, right?
But I mean, that's the whole thing. That's you can never. That outside expectations can never be a pressure. It should be more an inspiration. People are going to listen to your album and my album. We know that. That's why we are privileged, so to say. That's what I think you were saying, Tom, before. Like, you feel rewarded and privileged to be in this position. But I know both me and Tom and all our bandmates have so much, inside pressure. We really want to make a really good product that we can stand behind, that is honest and from the heart, and that's the big pressure. The other thing that that there's already a crowd waiting for it. That's just a fuel. That's just inspiration for us, I would say. And
it's change is also, as we discussed our early times on the bus sometimes, and change is also a factor of life experience. I think if you have no life experience, if you don't change in the course of like 40 years or so, then you haven't lived, and that's a tragedy. Yeah. I don't think any fan of ours who was there in '82 is still the exact same person, unless he has refused to live and experience things. If you're lucky, of course, the life experience translates into good music. But of course, everybody changes. It's ridiculous to think that's not going to happen.
Would you have an opportunity to play in bands that are considered, how can you say it, open-ended? There's no real limitations how Triptykon should sound. There are probably some limitations, to it has to maybe have guitars, but who knows? And the same for the Gates. I mean, there's people expect something, but they know that it's kind of hazy where that line goes between where what we can and what we can't do. And the same with Triptykon. And I think that's important.
Is it important for you that I think both bands after '95? You were on a hiatus. You did different things. You did Apolline Sun. You were around with Lock Up and other stuff. Was this necessary from nowadays point of view? Because otherwise you were vanished somewhere along the way in '97 or '98 if you didn't have a break.
I think. And maybe now I will answer for you too, Tom. I know. I said this question to you the other day on the bus, didn't I? Yeah. But I think you have to try other stuff than the stuff that's safe for you. The stuff that to try to see where your boundaries are and what you can't do, and everything kind of comes in. You work with other people, you work with other styles of music or different kind of formats. With different instruments and stuff like that, and all that comes as a learning process. As Tom's saying, like if you haven't lived, you can't create pure art. And from meeting these different people and trying out these different sounds, and sometimes succeeding, sometimes not. It's kind of that colors you now. I mean, At War with Reality and your latest album shouldn't be the same if we haven't done this. Apolline Sun, as you said. I'll let you continue now, but it's one of the most important things you've done, probably, in one part,
I would have said exactly the same thing. The only thing I could add for me is that, in all honesty, I was completely burnt out at the end of Celtic Frost, as was evident to everybody. And I should have pulled the plug much earlier. And of course it was necessary for me to take a step back and figure out why did I lose the plot and why did that happen. Definitely.
I think it was, in general, late '90s were not a good time for metal to be around because most of the bands were playing industrial stuff or alternative stuff from now to then, and it was to me like metal vanished for a time from the radar, you know, and came back like 2003, 2004. Did you have this impression too?
Yes, of course, but that's a very complex question that would require hours of answers.
We got time.
I have no problem with industrial and alternative and everything. I don't have to like all of that, but I have no problem with it either. And some industrial I think is actually very good. What puzzles me is the earlier eras of metal, like the 70s and the 80s and also the early 90s, they left a legacy, they left bands that really changed our scene forever. And with new metal and industrial, that's slightly less the case. There are some important bands, of course, but for some reason that music hasn't aged so gracefully and it hasn't really influenced so much as the other generations before or after.
Doesn't last for long.
Yeah, for some reason, I guess maybe there wasn't any band that really did something truly new with the tools they were given. I don't know. As I said, this is a complex topic.
Someone said to me as well that there will never be these. There will never be a new Iron Maiden or new Black Sabbath in the 2000s. That as someone was saying, that it's not going to be that. You know, Slipknot and Korn and those bands will never be that for the young generation. And no game changer has happened for a very long time now. And the scene can, it goes into all these small subgenres, which is in one way good. You can, spread your music through the internet. You can record almost for nothing, and therefore you could do very much experimental stuff, which is interesting. But as you say, that main metal kind of disappeared for a bit. Yeah.
It was my impression, at least. Yeah. So where do you think the whole thing is going in the future?
It's very hard to say, isn't it? I mean,
at last for your band.
For At the Gates, that's also hard to say. We want to be here. We want to be in this moment. I mean, we are right now. Actually, we are living the dream, so to say. We took a big step, daring step to doing this new record. Put our necks out, so to say. And it's been received well. At least that's my impression. And therefore, we just want to be here and play these shows. We're meeting the crowd and enjoying that reward. What will happen after that? I don't know. Hopefully, a new record, but who knows now? I don't want to. This is
just live in the moment.
Yeah, this is enough for me. This is the dream I had when I was a kid. Right, exactly this.
You dreamed of sitting right beside me here.
Yeah, yeah, kind of.
Gotten a little more careful with saying never, huh?
Yeah, at the Gates is good at a lot of stuff, but not doing statements. We're crap of doing statements.
So maybe we should film some discussion of you late night in the tour bus next time. It will be most rewarding.
Basically, a recap of everything we talked about.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we should have recorded that. Just give you a tape.
Yeah, maybe.
But then you wouldn't be on the camera. Maybe that's.
Yeah. I don't mind. It's important to have you two on the camera. So, last question. What is your favorite album or song from At the Gates?
That's a very good question. I probably cannot answer that because I really don't listen to death metal. I don't even listen to metal. Everybody always asks me for my favorite metal albums. I can never answer that because currently and for the last few years, all I've listened to at home is like jazz, classical, and maybe some embarrassing old hippie rock. Well, seriously, from the early 70s.
Which is very popular around now, again.
My respect for At the Gates is much more from an intellectual point. I listen to hardly any metal at home. I know everybody will now hate me because I said that, but it's a fact. I've done metal all my life. It is my life. I listen to a lot of hard rock from the 70s. But if you do it 24 hours a day and if it has defined your entire life, you also, in my opinion at least, you need to find some other inspiration, especially since I'm creative. And for some years, I've listened to jazz all my life, but for some years I've been now in a phase where I've listened to so much jazz and swing and everything. It's very
I can understand
to answer such a question, and with all due respect,
I can understand it because it's the same with me. I just don't listen to metal at work, for example, because I can't. It confuses me at work, for example.
I have to say, though, in all fairness, if you ask the other members of my band, they are honestly die-hard fans of your band. and they will probably come up with like I don't know how many songs a year, much more capable than I could ever do it. But they will grow into the phase where they listen to jazz. I know that.
We asked on the bus the other day, didn't we? Yeah.
And your favorite band, your favorite song or record of like Triptykon or
I mean,
Celtic Frost?
As you understand and as you heard before, I'm a big fan of most of Tom's work. You know, from his whole career. So it's so many different phases. You know, for me to pick up one is almost hard. But I'll say one song that really hit me hard lately, which I know you don't play live because it requires orchestration and stuff. I really love Shatter. I really love that song a lot, and it hit me very hard. It was very. It connected a lot with my love for the band Swans. That song and I don't know. I really liked the first record too with Triptykon and the new one of course. But when Shatter came out in between, it was like.
It's very repetitive as well.
Yeah, it's like a revelation for me. I was really thinking, yeah, Tom really, we have a lot in common. I thought when I heard that song, you know, he likes a lot of the same stuff as I do.
Yeah, we absolutely do. I think I'm astonished to discover in this tour how much our frame of mind, even though you know we're like thousands of kilometers apart, but that our frame of mind is so common. And of course, our love for Swans is also yet another connection that we share. Yeah. Speaking of his connection to our music, I just want to thank you again for doing us the incredible honor of joining us on stage for Circle of Times. That I know what your standing is in the metal scene, and it was an incredible honor to have you as a guest. I'm very grateful you did that for us.
It was an honor to be there. Well, we did. I did Circle of the Tyrants with Triptykon together at Eindhoven Metal Meeting, and it was. Yeah, I was very nervous because it was very for me. As I said, I wouldn't have dreamt of that when I was a teenager, but it was a fantastic experience, and it was treated very good by the band. Yeah.
It was actually interesting to hear what my band would sound like if I was actually a good front man.
Okay, so it was so nice to have you both here at once, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the tour. We will.
It's not every day that you get to tour with somebody that I would now consider a very good friend. Yeah. A related soul, and so I'm very happy that this is existing. Yeah,
I'm very happy too. It became more than I had hoped for. Yeah. Really,
we are happy to have both of the bands here and Morbus Crohn. And yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys.